Hello and welcome to Sharp Talk, the show by washed up athletes for washed up athletes looking to be their best self. On today's show, the brothers and I are joined by our aunt and uncle, Justin and Jodie Metzger. We discuss Jodie's personal health journey out of pain, the importance of holistic health, and some effective lifestyle changes that you can utilize to improve your physical and mental health. Hopefully, from listening to today's show, you realize that you don't have to settle with being in pain and being lethargic, that you need to be conscious of what you're putting in your body, and that the price of getting help is always cheaper than the price of chronic health problems. So thanks for tuning in, and hopefully you enjoy. Before we get rolling with today's episode, I want to take a second to tell you about Sharp Training. Snyder Health Recovery and Performance Training is an online training platform to help washed up athletes look, feel, and move better. We offer several different group options catered to your needs, interests, and goals, with new programs delivered each month through the TeamBuilder app. Features include video demonstrations, 24/7 messaging and feedback, and access to the Sharp Edge, a comprehensive guide to upgrade your diet, sleep, and life. Use the code PODCAST in all caps to get 50% off your first month when checking out a program. Iron sharpens iron, so let us help you become your sharpest self. Now let's go. And we're back with another edition of Sharp Talk. Jaden and Brandon and I are joined by our aunt and uncle, Justin and Jodie Metzger, two very knowledgeable people in the areas of wellness and nutrition and all sorts of other things. So I'm personally excited to learn from you two today, but I know there's going to be a lot of benefit for people who are listening. So appreciate y'all hopping on. If you two want to go ahead and just give yourselves a little intro, a little background about who y'all are.
Oh dear. A little background. How far back shall we go?
I mean, you can include some stories about growing up with Tim if you want.
Well, we'll save those for another time.
All right.
Yeah,
All right,
and Dan maybe too.
That's why I have so much character. I had those two as my brothers.
Yep. That'll do it.
When you asked me to go on here, I was kind of like, I don't know. This is not my comfort zone. But if I could help one person, getting out of my comfort zone is so worth it.
Mhm.
And that has probably been my motto for the last 10 years, I guess. And the funny thing is, I talked to Danielle today and we just hashed things over. We haven't talked in a long time. And she's like, Jodie, this is your opportunity to help that one person. So if you don't mind, I am going to go back just a little bit because there is
Absolutely.
such need in this area. Growing up, I had probably in junior high, maybe my freshman year, struggled with acne and some stomach issues. And back then, you went to your family doctor and they treated each thing individually. So for my acne, I was put on Accutane, Retina A.
Bad.
And then I realized after being sick with an ear infection that when I was put on antibiotics, my face got better. So I asked my doctor, asked my mom, and they're like, yeah, go ahead. So I was on antibiotics for, I don't know, probably 4 or 5 years. I just thought that's what everybody did. You don't know what you don't know. It worked. And so I was happy with that. Fast forward, we got married. I probably was, I don't know, 135 pounds. And then after going on the birth control right before we got married, I felt awful on it. I was on it for maybe 3 months, went off of it. And within another 3 months, I think I hit the 200 mark. I didn't change my lifestyle. I just progressively gained weight very quickly. My diet consisted of, Fruit Loop with only 70 calories for half a cup versus, someone else eating, I don't know what, maybe a cheese stick. That was maybe 110. So I went for the Fruit Loops. That's how we were trained. Low fat, low calorie. And so that's what I knew. And I wanted to do what was right. So that's what I did. Fruit Loops. I remember going on the bus to sporting events and people are eating all this food. And I mean, this little cup of cereal or just processed junk.
Mm-hmm.
So we were married, and it was rough because I had no idea what was going on. My acne was
It was rough being married, or
no,
Uh-oh.
no,
Uh-oh. How old were you when you got married?
20.
20?
So from that 19 to 20 year was horrible. I did Lyme's disease in that time frame too, so that did not help. So I was put on antibiotics for Lyme's for months, I think. Gained all this weight, went to doctor to doctor to doctor to doctor, and everyone's just like, I don't know, eat less. Okay.
Oh, thank you.
Mhm. And then I finally went to a dermatologist who actually listened.
Mm.
And he's like, I think you have PCOS. Never heard of it before.
which is what?
Polycystic ovarian syndrome. Pretty much hormone issues. A fancy word for hormone. So they put me on like a zone diet, they called it. Pretty much eating all your macros together. Making sure that your carbs and your proteins and your fats, you eat all together. You didn't eat your carbs separate. Thankfully, I lost weight doing that. And then after 5 years of infertility, we gave up. We tried all the things. We decided to foster and to adopt. Did all the classes. We were ready to adopt or foster. And then we got pregnant. And then in 7 years, we had 5 kids. So things just started.
I didn't know any of that. I had no
It-
idea.
Learning
No,
a lot. No, you don't talk to your nephews about this stuff.
We're here to learn. No,
Yeah.
that's amazing. Wow.
So that was amazing. So after we had Isabel, they're like, what do you want to do for birth control? Well, I was not going on birth control. I'm like, it took me 5 years to have her. I'll be fine. Well, 3 months later, I'm like, I think I'm pregnant. He's like, you can't want a baby. I'm like, yeah, this feels real. Nausea and heartburn. And sure enough.
Uh-huh.
So Preston and Isabel are only a year apart. So then, there's lots of sleepless nights when you have 5 kids in 7 years. And there's not a lot of time to take care of yourself. And then after Hudson, anxiety and depression was rampant. It was horrible. I was so tired. I remember always telling Justin, like, I feel like I'm carrying an elephant on my back, trying to get stuff done. Like, nothing is easy. And anxiety attacks, and the kids seeing me with my anxiety attacks, and spent probably how many times was I in the ER? 20 with stomach issues. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very humbling. Just no one could figure it out. And I remember Lori, we were sitting at mom and dad and our grandpa and grandma's, and she's like, do you think that maybe all of these symptoms come from one thing? Like, they're treating you for this, and they're treating you for that, and they're treating you for this, and all the things. And I was like, And I remember one night I was in the bathtub because I had so much pain. And I was just crying like, hey, God, you have to help me find the answer because I cannot live like this. And I was searching on my iPad in the bathtub, probably not smart, but I was just Googling, like, is there a doctor that looks at your whole body? Just kind of weird Google searches. And I came up with functional medicine. And this was 13 years ago. A lot has changed in 13 years. Yeah. And I remember being so excited when I read the description, like they try to get to the root cause. And I'm like, that's me. That's what I want. I'm tired of just meds slapped on top of me. And so I ran downstairs. I'm like, Justin, I found something. And I'm like, functional medicine. Have you heard of it? And he's like, no. So he read it. It sounded pretty cool. We were pumped. And I Googled functional medicine providers in Sioux Falls, and there was only one. And her name was Dr. Carrie Carlson. And Justin's like, wait, she's my friend. I'm like, what do you mean?
That's crazy.
And I work with her at the VA. And I'm like, well, the VA, that ain't going to help me. And there was a number on the website and we called it and she answered and it was like 9:00 at night. And I just told her my symptoms and she said, come meet me for coffee tomorrow. And out of the kindness of her heart, she was the beginning of my journey, kind of helping me through it, like you said.
Yeah.
And so I met with her and began my health journey, and I have never felt better. I mean, you still have issues. There's always things
Yeah.
that come, but working through functional medicine and testing and her, yeah. So that was kind of not the end of my health journey. Your health journey never ends, but that was like my tipping point where I knew my gut health was horrid. And once we worked on that, a lot of other things fell into place. So that is my health journey. And this guy,
Yeah, I was gonna say I have.
like, he was the brains. Like, I'm kind of the doer, and he's like the brains. So, like,
I'm just along for the ride.
Yeah. always digging, always researching. And back then with
Yeah.
heart, there was no podcast. There was, he had to find like, you found research papers and
Hmm.
just did what he could back then because it wasn't like today. So that's how we kind of got to where we are today.
I mean, the general people didn't talk about chiropractic, acupuncture, taking care of yourself. Like, I mean, as you were talking about raising kids, like in that time frame, you had lack of sleep,
Stress.
eating food that we shouldn't have been because we just didn't have the energy, anxiety, trying to work on your spiritual life and wondering why are you feeling so bad and what are you doing wrong, and not even having time to exercise a lot of times. So I think that's really a realistic thing that a lot of people go through when they're at that stage of life, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Justin, you want to go into your academic
Yeah.
background and kind of what you do for your career?
Mhm.
So I'm a pharmacist, went to the University of Minnesota, and I've spent the last odd years at the VA in Sioux Falls, kind of practicing traditional pharmacy and conventional medicine. But this has really kind of been another opportunity to see when things aren't working, like what's wrong, what can we address, learning about epigenetics and how your genes are impacted by your environment, your stress, what kind of things can we turn them back on or improve them with. And I mean, definitely my background was very traditional medicine. High cholesterol, give a cholesterol pill, very, very traditional. And I think I've definitely over this period learned to look at the whole person and try to understand that whole impact. And then, in the last few years, definitely trying to understand much more like how mental health plays into your health as well, just how relationships connect with your health, how important it is to have, those additional support group a lot of times.
Quick question. As a pharmacist, you're not necessarily meeting with the patient or whatever that you're. So, like, how do you handle, like, okay, so you have someone that comes to get medicine from you or whatever, some sort of drug. Like, that's not really your role to, like, change that. So, how do you find, right? Or am I wrong? Like, that's more of a doctor or a PA type of a thing. And then you're kind of just the middleman. So, how do you even, I mean, do you communicate with the doctors and the PAs, or like, do you try to give the patients advice to like what they other options, or it's a lot of it's transactional from like a pharmaceutical. You go to Hy-Vee, you pick up your meds, and you leave, right? So I guess I'm just
So
kind of curious.
good question. So actually, well, at the VA, when I'm in management now, but when I was in direct patient care, we actually have pharmacists located in the clinic with the providers. So we had a lot of one-on-one with patients, helping treat, whether it's cholesterol, blood pressure, whatnot. I'd almost say like I kind of live two lives on the healthcare scheme.
Right.
So like there's the very traditional medicine part, and then just through the people we interact with and get together. I mean, medicine's not a bad thing. There's a time and place for it, but a lot of people want to look for other avenues or want to understand why. So that's probably more in the non healthcare setting type.
Yeah. Understood.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I was just kind of curious, but why we're there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So after all this, people would come to us. Okay, so Jodie, how did you get better? And we would try and educate them. And multiple people. I would say we probably hit 20 people or 25 people before we're like, maybe we should do something about this. So then Dr. Ross had a huge impact in our community.
Shout out.
Yeah.
Shout out.
Anyway, so there was a lot of gluten-free, dairy-free people in the area, and people back then did not know how to bake with that or cook or eat, because it wasn't common. It was very uncommon 13 years ago, 10 years ago. So I by nature love the kitchen. I've always loved food. And so that was the hardest part for me, is I felt like I lost my identity, because I was like making dinner rolls and caramel rolls and cookies and pies. And all of a sudden it's like, ooh, none of this is good for you. So like, I ain't quitting. I'm putting my apron back on. I'm going to figure this out. How do we do this healthy? And so people would be like, hey, can you bake this for me? Sure. But then it got busy. And then it's, how do I charge them? Because they're like, well, how much does it cost? Like, I don't know. So then I remember thinking, do we start something? But then it seemed so big. Like, I was just stay-at-home mom with 5 little kids. But then we just kept more people and more people. So we're like, maybe we should pray about this. But then it was scary, very scary. And I remember that morning we both prayed about it. And I'm like, hey, God, I'm going to need a really big sign, because this is way out of my comfort zone. And that afternoon, I had been helping Jennifer Dupley. She would not care if I talk about this, because her story is also out there, helping her daughter who was also going through things. And I was baking for them, and I was trying to teach her how to do it at home. And she had gotten a bunch of supplies, and she went home and baked, and everything flopped. She came to my house, and I was talking to her, and all of a sudden she just started crying. And I'll never forget it. She put her head down on the counter, and she just said, "Would you just open a bakery?" And it's like, we both were crying. Yep, we both were crying. I remember I called Justin. Yeah, we're opening a bakery. And I called Danielle, who is my niece, their cousin. And I just told her what happened. She's like, well, let me help you. I love this, because she is also into, healthy living and had her own journey. So, and she is she does branding and all the things, graphic designer. So
very talented.
Out of the kindness of her heart, she just helped me start Blue Acres Market, is what it was called at the time. And so I was baking full time. Grandma Diane would come and help me 3 days a week. I hired her. And she would do dishes. That was kind of her job. But then people were coming, and they wanted more. They wanted, like, hey, can you help me start this journey? Like, like, how many calories should I eat? Or, I just need like an accountability partner. So then, and some people just wanted to know why, like, explain to me. So then we were kind of explaining to people together. And then it's like we were spending hours, like evenings, we'd have people here, and it's like, okay, maybe we need just something more than just a bakery. So then I went back, became a health coach through the Functional Medicine Coaching Academy. And he took a bunch of classes. And then Danielle and Dr. Carey, who I'd been talking to, will help me. we started what was called Rise to Thrive Wellness. And it was just a place to educate people online. Danielle and I created some cookbooks, some recipes, and then I started health coaching. And then later on, Dr. Carey had to bow out because she was doing other things. So then it was just the three of us. And it was amazing. And Danielle and I just kept saying, if we can just help one person, that's kind of our motto, then this is worth it all the time. Even if we don't make money, which it wasn't always a great money maker, but if we can just help one person or just educate people, because you don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And so then that was where Rise to Thrive Wellness started. And then your dad ruined it all.
I was
Tim, I'm just kidding.
You can go in that too, what you're doing now.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, so I was health coaching full time. I loved it. I loved my clients. I missed, well, because I was all on Zoom. Everything was Zoom. And then COVID hit, right? And then my bakery died just because no one was coming. And that was okay because as time went on, you could find things in Sioux Falls or even online. So then I was just health coaching. And then COVID, what year was it? I'm kind of, I think it was the year after COVID. At the school cafeteria, all the lunch ladies decided to leave. And Justin's the president of the school board. And Tim, as you know it, is the principal. And he loves West Lyon.
Mm-hmm.
And he called and he's like, hey, every time I pray about this, you come to mind. I'm like, nope, never worked a day in that kitchen. No way. He's like, will you pray about it? Nope. And he's like, dude. I'm like, Tim, I love my life. He's like, well, you just pray about it. I'm like, no. And he said, and then I told him, I said, do you ever pray about becoming the president of the United States? He's like, no. I said, well, me either. I'm not praying. Yeah, well, then I did pray about it.
And
yeah, the next day I was in the kitchen and
So now you're making made
What?
from scratch food for school kids, and
which
Milo
is
are loving them all.
yeah. So I was so sad to see. I mean, Rise to Thrive Wellness is not dead.
I think it's maybe just the beginning, but
Yeah. I don't know what God's plan really is, but I just learned to just roll with him because I don't know. He's in control and I love it. I mean, I would have guessed I would have loved this, but I do. And so I started there and people just volunteered to help because we needed people. And we survived the first couple months thanks to your dad. I remember I'm like, hey, Tim, it was midnight. It was his birthday and he was up in the attic helping me.
yep. Come on. You better help too.
Yeah, I don't care if it's your birthday. You'll have enough. Hopefully, no. And we made it through the toughest part. It was rough. And that really, it was amazing. Just everyone pulling together. And then I have the most amazing staff. And then I hired Trista Blowett to be my boss.
Mm.
I did not want all that responsibility. I just wanted to kind of just split it. Like I work on one part and she does the other. Because I'm not good with books and stuff. Like that is not my talent. So we'll let someone else do that. I love food and recipes and menu planning. I'll do that.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the same mission. We want to feed real food.
Mm-hmm.
And it's hard with the government. I'm sure everybody knows that. But just using my creativity and trying to come up with the best possible way to get these kids fed nutrient-dense food and whole foods. So now that's where I am at.
Yeah.
And I love it.
That's awesome.
I wish I could have fed you guys
Oh man.
Me too.
Could you imagine?
one day when you come over.
Yeah.
I look back
Yeah.
at like how many, I mean, we had crazy schedules and still crazy schedules now. I mean, morning lifting and, you know, sometimes like a practice or skill work in the morning and then practice after school. And you're doing that year round for 4-sport athletes. I have no idea how I survived that time when I look back at what I ate during that time or what I didn't eat.
Right.
And man, it's just crazy. I mean, knowing what I know now, and I mean, obviously we all have, Westline has a special place in our hearts, and knowing that the kids in that school are able to benefit from you being there and eating real food, which is just a massive deal. So, I mean, that just makes my heart happy. And I think, that's something you might not see the immediate benefit of, but the
Mhm.
long-term health, I mean, that's something that could carry on for the rest of their lives. So,
Mhm.
like you said, I mean, not what you pictured yourself doing, but it's where you've been placed and able to
Mhm.
make an impact in a new way. And so that's awesome.
Yep.
Jaden, I'm curious if you have like a thought or a question or two. I know
I'm
this is like
curious.
right up your alley. So
I know. I heard you mention when you were growing up how like low fat was kind of the trend then. I'm curious kind of how nutrition has like evolved for you guys and what you guys have kind of held on to, because there's so much misconception and so much like fad in the nutrition space. And it's
Mhm.
really hard to find something concrete. So I'm just curious how you've maybe evolved in your knowledge and grown to something like a whole food approach, or like something that is centered around just good food. I'm just curious how it's kind of evolved, because yeah, you've mentioned the sources of knowledge has grown. There's been more podcasts. There's more experts on the internet. So yeah, I'm just curious what your thoughts on that journey has been.
We are part of I call it the great experiment of processed food. I mean, our generation, that's when a lot of the boxed foods came out in the 80s and through the 90s. And I mean, it's still going, the Hostess Twinkies and all those types of things. So yeah, it's definitely evolved in terms of even understanding what we have to eat versus what we need to eat, So and
So for me, it was a journey because I needed to heal. And so I had to take away a lot of things. Just because my intestines were just so inflamed. And so then you just get so many things that are crossing, proteins that are crossing that shouldn't cross. So like cutting out even dairy for that time, eggs, things that could cause inflammation and what you say?
immune response.
Immune response because of my leaky gut, So once I healed that and got my junctions tight, then I could reintroduce like the dairy and the eggs and things like that. So it has really evolved because like at first I was eating baby food. I was so inflamed. And so that's really what I ate, baby food, because that's all my stomach could digest. And then with the knowledge of like sugar that does to our body, seed oils, vegetable oils, processed foods. So trying to stay away from those. Obviously, like him and I, we can eat different things just because I'm different. And that's what's hard in this is we are not all the same. And so what works for the goose doesn't always work for the gander. So understanding no one should ever really eat seed oils or sugar. We know that. But going beyond that, it's hard because sometimes people can't process a lot of protein like steak when they're not well. And so they might have to back off on that maybe, so it's really hard. Sometimes I struggle a lot with, is it lectin? Right. With lectins. So it's like an anti-nutrient in vegetables and beans. So my body does not tolerate that well. So I don't eat a lot of vegetables. I do really well with berries. So you have to find someone who can work with you to help you understand and really listen to your body, because if I have learned anything in this journey, it is not a one size fits all.
So I don't know how does the common person find somebody that can speak to meet their needs, figure out their body, figure out what they can take in well, what they don't take in well, where they're at in their life? Because like even in certain phases of life, you've been able to eat things and certain phases you haven't been able to eat things. It seems like there's very few resources out there for that as far as like the person individually. And it seems like even if you do that, it's probably an expense that I'd rather just continue eating what I eat and just deal with it versus really trying to figure out, what makes me feel the best and what I can and can't do. And I don't know.
So do you remember all those ER visits
Mhm.
that I talked about? Those are expensive.
Mm.
So learning where I want to put my money. So, and that's in my health. So finding functional medicine, that's where it's at right now, is finding a functional medicine provider that's going to walk you through this and test you and figure out, what is working for you. And
And a lot of times you have word of mouth of who has helped. So like just, sometimes you hit a point in life where stress, lack of sleep, compounds the issue. And why all of a sudden are you not feeling well where 2 years ago you were feeling fine? Sometimes you just need a reset to get you back going again. So I can't even count the number of people we've sent to like Dr. Ross, like, hey,
Yeah.
go check him out.
Dr. Cheryl Bones from Prairie Roots Chiropractor, she's really good.
But once you find, I think the thing is people don't feel good. And there's two groups. Some just keep going down the path. And some are like, I need to dig and I need to dig and I need to dig. And then, Jodie's mentioned it a couple times is like understanding your body, which I don't know if everyone can comprehend what that means. But after you eat, how do you feel? How's your brain fog? How do you feel getting up in the morning? And kind of starting to play like, okay, I feel okay when I do this and I don't feel okay when I do that. But if
Mhm.
you're not feeling well overall, you can kind of just keep eating junk and not exercising and all that other stuff because you always feel rotten. You never feel better. So yeah, a couple kind of jump back to Jaden's question a little bit. Jodie's gone through like almost every diet there is possible, multiple elimination diets. And at some point, just going to more of like a meat-based diet, which most people tolerate extremely well, and then slowly adding things back in to find out um, what what's good, what's not. Jodie said she loved to cook, and I remember in our early years, it'd be meat and a vegetable and a starch and a homemade bread and a dessert. Like, I had probably like 4,000 calories for supper. And really now looking back, we eat meat, maybe a vegetable and some fruit. Like, try to simplify your foods a little bit, put a little variety between some of them, but then trying to realize what we really don't need either.
I think it's really cool that we have the ability to experiment with ourselves and the ability to, because we control everything that goes in our mouth. Like no matter what happens, we will have control over what we do eat. And so just having the ability to just experiment with foods, like you said, try meat, see how you feel, throw something in. If it makes you feel worse, maybe try something else. Like we have to show the importance of investing in yourself. Like you said, the cost of being unhealthy is always going to outdo the cost of being preventative and taking the steps to prevent whether it's obesity or whatever comes with that inflammation later on. So I think it's just really important to educate the importance, but it's hard to hold people's hands. Like a lot of them don't even know, like they don't know what it is besides bad. Like I don't know what metrics I'm supposed to be looking at to determine what is bad. Like we're talking maybe bowel movements are off, or maybe just that it's a problem, but I think it's something that we're getting closer to, and it's different from that traditional medicine, right? Like we've personally think it's headed in the right direction, but yeah, then you get these internet experts online that will tell you something that's completely the opposite of what you heard, and yeah, it's hard. I don't know.
The one thing that is so hard for me to see is when I was so ill, I hardly had the energy to do it. And so he was there for me, like, you can do this. He would cook my food. Let's go for a walk. You can do this. People don't have that. And
Mm.
so that's where I was like, I just want to be there for them. I just want to help. I know, I just want to be that person that they don't have. But we can all be that person to multiple people. I mean, we all have friends, we all have family, but it's so hard because when you are so sick, it's so hard to find that energy because you do have that elephant you're carrying, and it's so hard
Yeah.
to get up and move. And
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to the mental health aspect of things, because I know when I had mental health issues in college and kind of went through like the SSRI thing and all of that, like I know working with Dr. Ross helped me out a ton, and I think a lot of people experience their poor diet choices through like their mental health. And that's maybe like the biggest red flag of all of it. And I think that's maybe like, I don't think people know enough that like their mental health is their signal for their poor gut health, and how much improving your gut health can improve your mental health. I don't know if you have anything to say about that. I know that's been something that I've learned a ton about and has made me feel a lot better, especially in that phase of life, because that's like the thing that got me out of that was cleaning up my gut, my stomach, and my eating habits. And I know I wouldn't have ever discovered that without Dr. Ross. So, and that's what made my brain better and then made my choices better. And it was a domino effect from there. And so I don't know if that's maybe a lot of people's way out of that. So,
I mean, yeah, Jodie had extreme anxiety of like going over heights, flying in an airplane. And I just assumed we'd never fly in an airplane. Like physically, her body couldn't like even think of it. And I don't know, at some point, maybe 5 years ago, you're like, I think I'm ready to fly. And I'm like, funny. I'm not taking you in an airplane. Like I tried to take her over a dam once, and like physically she couldn't handle it. But over time of healing her gut, like that anxiety has gone away. And I mean, I'd definitely say there are some people that have, genetic mental health issues and other things that aren't controllable. But
maybe just explain how the gut and brain are connected.
I mean,
that's
yeah,
a
the
great
brain,
point.
the gut creates a lot of serotonin. The gut just releases so many factors that are great for the brain, but they are connected. And the way the body interacts, you know, conventional medicine will say the brain, we go to somebody for your brain, we go to someone for your stomach, we go to someone for this organ, we go to someone else. And functional medicine tries to bring that all back together and say how our bodies are not independent systems that work by themselves. They're all interrelated. And when one thing is not healthy or creating inflammation, it's going to affect other areas of the body as well too. So, but no, definitely, I think that mental health component is really important when you're not feeling well, to also be addressing that at the same time.
Yeah, the genetic piece is a rabbit hole I've started to go down more. I mean, at some point, I would like to do like a DNA test kit and like test blood. Just, I mean, I feel great, but just to hone in on like people spend thousands of dollars on supplements, but they could be taking things that are not only not effective, but maybe actually making them worse just because of their genetics or dosage. So I'm curious for you too with supplements. Are there any just general supplements that are good for anyone, regardless of genetics? And maybe if there's a few that you maybe need to be careful with, depending on your genetics or background? Just how do you view supplements, I suppose?
I mean, so coming from me, a pharmacist that was trained on conventional medicines, I didn't think that I would ever probably make a lot of recommendations about supplements, but just looking at some of the impact. So, I mean, probably one of the main ones would be a good multivitamin that, has some methylated B vitamins in it. About 40% of the public cannot methylate the synthetic B vitamins that are put in most multivitamins. Should we ever really need a multivitamin? Ideally not, but we don't live in the tropics.
Or maybe we shouldn't go down this rabbit hole, but our food is not as nutrient dense as it used to be because we have changed it so much, or even the biome of the dirt is so different. And so the spinach from 40 years ago is not the same spinach of today. So that's why I think a multivitamin is more important today than maybe 30 years ago, 40 years ago, before glyphosate was created.
Fish oil. I mean, there's lots of
Jeez.
studies out there saying that fish oil. I mean, there was one just released not that long ago that, said fish oil didn't prevent any cardiovascular disease. But that's what they were studying for. I mean, that was their endpoint. And, what other things did those people have going on with them? I guess the thing I just reminded of the other day is you can't supplement yourself out of a garbage diet.
Absolutely.
So when we're looking at whether supplements do help, if you're eating garbage, sorry, supplement is not going to help you. So, and then probably for us up here on Northwest Iowa and probably anywhere north of probably Missouri, we need vitamin D pretty frequently during the wintertime. It's definitely, we lack in it. We don't get what we need most of the time. And that's important for a lot of synthesis and processes in the body as well. And the other thing would be just a good, probably probiotic that has some multiple strains of different bugs in there, because our bugs are under attack all day long, whether it's your own stress, maybe what you're drinking, not drinking, what you're eating, what you're feeding them. So kind of well-rounded. And, I think those would probably be my basic 4 is pretty much anybody can take any of those. I think when you get into some of the supplements that are targeted specifically for like mental health or certain other specific thyroid stuff, you really got to know if you really need them or not. So, doing some of that testing would be important for those. Yeah, I was just thinking today, concussions, and there's some evidence out there looking at like fish oil. So you guys all take fish oil when you're in high school playing football?
I still do, actually.
I did not then, but I do now. But I also didn't have a concussion, so.
Creatine is probably another.
Creatine. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, not for so much muscle building, but more for brain energy.
Brain,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Mitochondrial energy.
Mhm.
Yeah. I mean, like, I'd be thinking a lot about just the quality of like the food that we're even accessible to have here. Like, do you guys, relative to like maybe European countries or foreign countries, do you guys look into like the quality of like pasta? I know, for example, like in the pasta that we eat versus the pasta that's maybe served in other countries. Like, I don't know what my exact question is, but like the quality of the food that we're able to eat, like what advice do you have to that? Like where do you shop? Any advice for like, should you get into like making it on your own? It's hard. It's hard.
For us, that's probably one of the reasons why we eat. So we raise our own steers out on a pasture. That's
our own chicken.
One of the reasons why we probably eat a lot more meat is it's when you look at the ingredients, beef, and it's not processed. Yeah, so I think processed, regardless of what it is. I mean, gluten-free processed is just as processed as anything
A
else.
gluten-free Oreo is just as unhealthy as a regular Oreo, unless if you have celiac. Then obviously you're going to need the gluten-free Oreo.
We now can eat processed wheat starch, and it's considered gluten-free because none of the proteins resemble wheat protein anymore.
So what happens, our body doesn't even know what it is, and it starts to fight it because it's so foreign. It's so changed. So something I've recently started doing is buying kamut flour. It is like it's a European wheat. It's the original wheat. It's never been modified. It's organic. So for my kids, I don't eat a lot of it. That's kind of what we're gravitating towards. And people who have intolerances to gluten can usually tolerate kamut because it's not so genetically modified. It's not sprayed with Roundup. So whole foods, grains that are organic, if we're going to eat grain, that are not sprayed, anything with no seed oil. Your oil cupboard should be butter, avocado oil, and olive oil, bacon grease, lard. That's it. If you have vegetable oil and you're listening, please throw it out. Don't give it to your neighbor because you'll kill him. Just throw it out.
Yeah. Anything else like that? Those things are super helpful. I mean, we're talking to a really general population. It's most of our people that are post athletic career or
What's
that are
here,
just looking for
like
advice.
sprays, like I think of you guys that golf, just all the chemical. And so you look at us women, we're kind of a hot hormonal mess. So many things. Have you heard of obesogens? It's something that mimics estrogen, like BPA, probably chemicals. And so he can explain it better because he's the chemist. I'm not. There's so many things that mimic estrogen. Go ahead and you can take it from there.
They attach to the estrogen receptors and they make your body think that you've got estrogen. So pretty soon your hormones are all off. But yeah, I mean, good, that's a great question, Brandon. Like how are you supposed to maneuver through life and still find food that you can eat? Years ago, you could make homemade bread and it will spoil maybe in like
4 days.
4 or 5 days, but you could buy a package of hot dog buns and they'll sit on your shelf for almost 4 weeks without getting moldy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's kind of a judgment thing too, is like when things don't rot like they're supposed to, it's probably not like the best thing. I mean, you can buy a tomato in the grocery store and it's going to stay on the counter for 3 weeks, but you go pick one out of your garden and, it'll be ready to eat like in a couple days. So I think there's like that nutrition value and that freshness. It's natural that it spoils, but when things don't spoil, our bodies have to, one bite here, there's not going to make a big deal, but you do a lifetime of that.
A lifetime of Fruit Loops, you don't want to do that.
I mean, the biggest market for pharmaceuticals is chronic diseases. Immune, if you like commercials, they're all for like rheumatoid arthritis, psoriasis, Crohn's disease, all these immune diseases. And is anybody asking why we have them? It just, the body wants to heal itself. There's not just a natural gravitation to getting sick. The body is an amazing thing. So what are we doing to speed up that disease process,
Yeah, I mean, you look at the rise in chronic disease, the rise in obesity, basically everything going in the wrong direction. You have to ask questions. I mean, you see the US just allowing stuff like food dyes that other countries just ban because they're not healthy for human consumption. It's crazy. Like grocery stores are like over 75% processed food. It's unreal. And I have done a lot of research, so I'd like to look at sources of things where I'm getting it from. But I understand that people don't have the time or want the time to spend on that, and it's just hard to find places to trust. And
Mhm.
there's so many like health claims of processed food that are coming out these days as well, like healthy protein bars with a bunch of seed oil and just so many health spin-offs that have a billion ingredients, and it's a mess.
Was it the USDA that did that pyramid of healthy foods, top healthy foods? And the third thing was Lucky Charms. And what was at the bottom? Beef or eggs or something?
Yeah.
Are we kidding?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
You can get into the deeper conversation of, government to pharmaceuticals to money I mean, and we'll probably get banned from all of the major, podcasting websites and all that stuff.
You
But
might get a few things.
I think that's what we're here for. You know what I mean? I think that's Rise to Thrive. So, but it really is. It's monetarily driven and powerful people are behind all this stuff, and it is what it is. But I think we're here to help the common person and help one person, So
Right.
And I think you guys are, definitely onto something. Like, think of how many calories you guys consumed during your college football days, which overeating creates inflammation in the body. That's how it grows. People that go through, like you guys, of healthy eating and how to calm the body back down, because over 30% of the population of the United States either has diabetes or pre-diabetes, and the majority of that is from overeating. So how to stop that, gain your health back before you get into your 30s and your metabolism starts slowing down, I think is really important too.
So for those people like that you talked about who, are unhealthy, maybe where you were, Jody, where just feeling like crap and just a bad lifestyle. I mean, I've found working with clients that trying to change too much at once just leads to nothing that's sustainable. So
Mhm.
maybe what are one or two or three just actionable steps that someone could take who's in that position to kind of just start to turn their life around?
I think starting with one habit and making it be a habit and then moving on to the next thing. So some people like me throw it all at me and I'm doing it all. But that's probably the Snyder in us, maybe. I don't know that everybody's like that. I know they're not.
Sounds like Grandpa Ken.
Yeah.
Not gonna lose.
Nope. But just, let's hit the food. Let's maybe just cut out. Let's just, instead of going out to eat, let's find something that's an easy meal for you at home. Because going out to eat, it's seed oils. We know that. And it costs money, so we can save money from going out to eat.
Do we know that? I don't know that I've ever heard going out to eat means seed oils. I'm just
I've never heard of
my
it framed like that either, honestly.
from my perspective, that's not like, and that's, I guess, my point, not to get you off track, but like I've never heard that, I'm sure I know it, but
Olive oil, avocado oil is super expensive, so they're going to use vegetable oil or seed oils. You go to Sam's and look at what's in bulk. Those are for the restaurants. It's seed oils, it's vegetable oils. That's what they're frying there. They're not using grass-fed butter to fry your Butterburger in. Your French fries, that's seed oils. And then you have high heat with potatoes and seed oils, and that's carcinogen right there. So just that one step. Let's just stop eating out. Let's think of a meal at home that's easy. And then, let's maybe move your dumbbell from the basement and set it beside your chair. And just, like simple things. And just starting with one thing and then slowly. That's why we always did like 13 weeks, with clients, just because it takes a while to get those habits, change a few things, lifestyle changes, and move. And realizing move can be fun. Like, you don't have to go do something you love. Play pickleball. Great.
And that would be my plug for a health coach, like someone that isn't necessarily going to tell you what you need to do that's healthy or not, but helping you identify the steps. Your practitioner, your whoever's going to tell you what you need to do, a health coach, and you can Google health coaches. They're going to be the ones to help identify priorities, keep you accountable. So a huge advantage to health coaching.
Yeah. Dana Cushing, she was my health coach. She's amazing. So if anybody out there needs a health coach, she's top notch. But yeah, just start small. And then slowly over weeks, you have a lot of new habits that you didn't even know. Yeah.
any other media plugs? Obviously, you guys have Rise to Thrive. I know on Instagram. Do you have anything like Facebook, or do you have a website or anything that people can look at with websites or with recipes?
It's just risetothrivewellness.com. So Danielle and I have not been very faithful at that. Our lives have turned. She's now a mother and I'm at school. I would love to come back to it, but it's not the time right now. The website's still there. There's still recipes, but I am not health coaching at this time, or I'm where I need to be right now, I guess.
Yeah.
But I'm still here. I mean, if you have questions, obviously this is my love and passion.
That's awesome. Well, I mean, I think my biggest takeaway was, I mean, just you talking about all the ER visits, like there's always going to be a price to pay. And maybe that's not in the form of money. Maybe it's just feeling like crap. I mean, day to day, like you're paying a price, you're sacrificing your energy and well-being, and maybe even shortening your lifestyle. And so I think just, looking yourself in the mirror and figuring out what price you want to pay, and if that's in the form of seeking out help, but it leads to benefits in the long run, then maybe that's the price you need to pay, or at least just start. There's so many resources. Just, start asking questions and start looking, and just not being complacent with just feeling like crap all the time. So,
Yeah.
I mean, appreciate you coming on. I learned a lot personally just from this, and excited to have some more conversations with you too. And yeah, I mean, hopefully there's a lot of people out there who can benefit, and yeah, just appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Glad to be here.
Yeah. Thanks for being so
Absolutely.
vulnerable at the beginning too, and just sharing. Like, I know, like I learned a lot just from like a personal perspective about you guys and your journey, and for you just to open up to a general audience too, with just the struggles and being honest with, for your guys' relationship and your own journey, Jodie, and even Justin, like being there for you through all of that. That's pretty neat from my perspective, and so thank you for that.
Yeah.
If it helps one.
Yeah,
That's
it's an
awesome.
important message, and you guys have the message. Like, I think it's so valuable what you guys have and share. And yeah, thank you guys for coming on and your wisdom.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thanks.
Appreciate y'all. Till next time.
You
Sounds
bet.
good.
Thanks for listening to the show. If you enjoyed today's episode, leave a rating, review, or tell a friend to check us out. Be sure to follow us at SHRP_training for more content to help you be your best self. Go be great today.